Welcome back, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Mr. Business for Real channel. I'm Q, and today we're going to be talking about budgeting. So let's get started. All right. So, as you all already know, we talked about this before. If you haven't watched my previous videos, make sure you go and check them out. I talked a little bit about the your credit and kind of some credit cards to get started and things of that nature. And once I get into this PowerPoint, you're going to see why I decided to go over that first before jumping into budgeting. But again, my channel is user friendly. It is good information for beginners, intermediates, or experts alike, because you can take parts of what I'm telling you and things I'm going to show you, and you could apply it to your life today. And right now, what we're going to go over here, we're going to talk about a few steps you can take in order to get on top of your budget and to start saving money so you can invest and successfully transition into a stress-free future. Man, that's a tongue twister. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. Had a long night at work, but here we go. Let's get started with the PowerPoint. And again, like always, I make these PowerPoints literally right before I start recording, so hopefully you all like them and they're not too boring. But let's get right into it and let's go over how to create a budget with low income. And the reason why I decided to tackle low income, because obviously if you got a large income or a small income, it all works the same. But typically, some of the problems people face with low income is the fact is trying to figure out, where's all my money going? How can I do better with this? And things of that nature. And I could personally relate because obviously I didn't always make decent amount of money. I'm not rich by any means, but I used to have a pretty low income myself years and years and years and years ago. So anyway, so we're going to cover the basics on how to kind of create a basic budget, and then we're going to cover the 50-30-20 rule I mentioned in the previous video towards the end. And the reason I'm going to bring up that budget rule at the end is once we get through this PowerPoint, it'll wrap everything all the way together. So let's get started with the very first step here. We're going to talk about listing your income. This sounds like basic because it is basic. So use the Excel spreadsheet or notebook paper or whatever the case would be. So what I do typically myself is I create an Excel sheet because I'm old school. I start putting down line by line where all my income is coming in from. And basically the best way to do this, if you have an online checking account, savings account, or whatever the case may be, wherever you get direct deposit, if you get direct deposit, or if you get paper checks, whatever you do, just write down that number of where all your income is coming from. So no matter how big or small that budget is, you just want to know what are you bringing in net. So we don't care about gross because obviously you don't get to see that anyway. Most of that's going to taxes. So as far as your net income, we're going to include absolutely everything. So part-time jobs, side hustles, stipends, child support, disability, social security, wherever the case may be. You could be doing chores for your brother, your sister, your mom and dad, cutting the grass, they're giving you allowance. It doesn't matter if it's income that's coming in regularly, include that in this spreadsheet. And on top of that, some people work commission only jobs or partial commission. So what I would say is for those of you all that have income based on commission, just take whatever your lowest monthly amount is just as a place to start, because one thing you want to do is you don't want to you want to overinflate your budget, because that's going to mess up how this exercise is going to work. So if you end up over budgeting and think you have more money than you do, you're going to end up in a problem, and then you won't be able to do the 50-30-20 rule effectively. So anyway, step one, get all your income listed. I should say all your regular income. It's something that comes in every single month or weekly or bi-weekly. Write it down, and then we're going to add it all up as for the month. So after you get that all added up, you now know what your total net income is per month, right? Second step, so after you list all of your income, what do you think comes next? Expenses. So now what you want to do is you want to list all of your monthly expenses. And it could be weekly or whatever the case may be, but what you want to do is everything that's on repeat. And it doesn't matter what it is at this point in time, but you want to make sure that everything that you regularly pay on is included now in this portion of the bill, or this portion of your exercise here. And the second note I want to make sure is, like, if you ever heard this before, it says taking care of the four walls first. And that's just pretty much saying that your basic necessities, which is food, utilities, shelter, and transportation. Assuming that you need transportation to do your job. Some people don't because they work from home. So that's one less expense you have to worry about on that standpoint. But anyway, you want to include all of your expenses that you have that are reoccurring, right? It doesn't matter if it's a necessity or if it's a want at this point in time. But I will tell you later on, we will separate that out. But just stay along with me and follow along here. And again, like I said, I'm trying to make this quick. And like I said, I try to keep my videos 15 minutes or less. So I make sure you can get back to your day, get your day going, and you can apply these steps directly to whatever you're doing today, day and age. All right, moving right along. So now this is called zero-based budgeting. So what we're going to do, and so it's not the same thing as general or as determining cash flow, because I know some people may see that, oh, subtract expenses from income, that gives you your cash flow. Yes, typically that is what how you would determine your cash flow. You say, okay, I make this amount of money and I spend this amount, and whatever left over is your cash flow, whether it's positive or negative. Hopefully it's positive. But in this case, we're going to be doing zero-based budgeting, which basically means we're going to make sure that every single dollar we have is accounted for and is working for you. So what it means, like, no matter whether you're going to be giving it away, saving it, spending it, paying off debt, doesn't matter what you're doing with it, every single dollar needs to be accounted for, right? So even if you like $200 left over, you're moving it into your savings, we're going to subtract that $200 from that direct deposit into your savings. So at the end of going through this type of budget, you will be at zero. That's why it's called zero-based budgeting. I mean, every single dollar, you know where it's going, you know what it's doing every single month. But it doesn't mean you're spending all your money, so don't do that. But it just means you know where every single dollar is going. And this is a good practice to have. I guarantee you won't ever come across anybody who's very good with money, or millionaires, multimillionaires, who don't know where every single dollar is. Well, probably at this point, most of them are hiring people to do this. But like I said, you have to be very good at budgeting in order to be good with money. Doesn't matter how much money you make. If you are not good at budgeting, you don't know where your money is going, you're going to blow it, you're going to be wasting money, and you're going to still be in that cycle. I know people in the six-figure range who are paycheck to paycheck because they don't know how to budget. So, as I said, so if you have low income, medium, high, wherever you are in that aspect, as long as you know where your money is going, you can now effectively budget and start to cut back. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's jump right into the next step here. And oh, that was the last step. Sorry, I forgot. I simplified it a little bit. So, and this was a question that came up when I was talking with one of my friends about this type of budgeting program. And one of the questions they brought was, what to do if the income doesn't cover their expenses. Don't even worry about it, because sometimes that's the case, especially since that coffin bug was out. Inflation hit. We're looking at, I mean, what are people paying nowadays? $2-3 for milk, $5-6 for a gallon of gas, depending on if you're on diesel or unleaded or premium or whatever the case may be. Like I said, the expenses are high everywhere. So I get it. I've been in this situation before. It's not fun to overextend yourself. And the first thing you probably think is like, oh, I'm going to put everything on my credit card. But don't do that. If you can't afford to pay that money back, don't put it on a credit card. So now, once we get through this portion, like if you're going to put it on a credit card temporarily, that's fine. But this is where we want to start here. So first of all, we want to look at cutting out extra expenses. And I put down a couple examples here, but you all know what your extra expenses are. We just went through those couple steps, right? So now you know where you're spending all your money. Now you know all your expenses. So take a look at those expenses, right? And you probably see like McDonald's on there, or you may get Netflix or Hulu. You got these streaming services and things like that. These are not necessities, right? These are things that are extra. So look at all those extras. You can add those up. You can cut out some of those extras. Maybe you don't want to, but like I said, you got to sacrifice now so you don't need to sacrifice later. I need to trademark that, but I've been saying that for a long time. That's kind of where my mindset always has been, is I'm going to sacrifice now so I don't need to sacrifice later. And so anyway, Like I said, so skip that restaurant. Don't stop at Starbucks or Caribou. What do people go to nowadays? Think about how much money you spending on that coffee, right? Was it $5 for a coffee? Add it up every single day. I mean, you're looking at $25 a week. If you just doing it Monday through Friday, going to work, you taking that one coffee a day. That's $25 a week. That's $100 a month right there, back into your budget. You know, or if you don't want to cut it out completely, you could always just go out and buy coffee, make it yourself at home, and then you're not spending that $5, every single day. I guarantee you right now, I use Keurig K-Cups. So, you know, let me switch back over here so you can see. So, like, look, I use these little K-Cups, right? So, and I don't get, I guess, I don't know if this is name brand or not. But anyway, not a sponsored video, but I'm showing you, like, look, I get these little K-Cups. This is about, $13 or something like that. Now, granted, like I said, the $13, but you go, there's 24 of these in a package, right? So if I do one per day, this pretty much lasts me an entire month, right? So what you would spend at Starbucks or Caribou for a week, I'm spending that in an entire month. So granted, yes, if I bought like Folgers or something like that and brewed it myself, I would even save even more money. But like I said, but that's my way of cutting back, right? So anyway, moving. Or another thing I want to say about that as well too is you could always, when you're going grocery shopping, take a look at like whether you go to Target or Walmart. They each have their own brand, right? So you can buy literally the same thing you would get name brand. You can get at the local. You can get local. Well, I don't know if local. You can get generic brand. That's what I meant. You can get the generic brand, right? So it's like it's the same stuff. Unless you're one of those people where you're just like, oh, I have to have my favorite fill in the blank, right? But like I said, this is another way you can cut back. Because take a look next time you're at the grocery store, take a look at, or we use coffee, for example, right? I guarantee you Target and Walmart have their own version of that same product that you are already buying. In some cases, I will transition over. In some cases, I don't. I can tell you right now, it's like, when it comes to like cereals, if you got kids, they like their certain brands of cereal. It's like cereal is very expensive nowadays. I think I spend like almost $5 a box of cereal for buying name brand when I could buy an entire bag for for half that cost, and that bag is like 3 boxes of cereal. So anyway, that's another example. So anyway, I am digressing. Back to topic at hand here. So next thing is, don't buy new clothes. Now, I don't know if y'all know if you're in the clubs, you're hanging out at the bars, or whatever the case may be, but like I said, cut that stuff out, especially if you're hanging out at bars and all that stuff like that. All that stuff can wait. But anyway, buy new clothes. It's like, you can always go to these secondhand places, right? You can go as far as like Goodwill or any of those thrifty, I can't remember those thrifty stores, right? If you didn't want to go that far down, but like I said, you can look at like maybe you have an older sibling, right? And maybe you fit their clothes and maybe they're done wearing it or whatever the case may be. Like I said, this is other ways you can cut back on not buying new clothes, especially once you reach a certain age and you're not growing anymore. And of course, you maintain a good habit. You're not going to be fluctuating too much in size, so you'll be good to go, right? Another example, selling stuff. Now that's something I haven't done, but look about eBay. Like, let me give you an example. Just right behind me here, right? I got my Star Wars little collector's coffee mug, right? Of course, I use the whole pins, but like something like this, the Star Wars fans, you can throw down on eBay. This, like, say for instance, I don't know how much this costs. Say for instance, this was $10. You could probably, sell this for $15, make a few extra bucks, right? Maybe you got some old phones or tablets or Chromebooks. Like I say, grab some of that stuff, clean it up, take a nice clean photo of it, throw it on eBay. You never know. Like, if you're not using it, you might as well sell it, right? Especially if you don't need it. All it's doing is wasting space. So anyway, back to the video. You don't need to be staring at me, right? All right, so where are we at now? So now we're going to take a look at, okay, maybe you don't want to cut back on all these extra expenses. So there's another option. So typically this is going to work best if you do both, right? You're going to cut out your extra expenses and you also want to increase your income. These are some examples. Of course, I wrote down on increasing your income. You can find this all over the YouTube University. I guarantee you there's side hustles all over the place, right? Get an extra side hustle. If you're an hourly employee, Ask to work some overtime. Do some freelance work. Find something you're good at, or that you don't mind doing. Help somebody out. Whether you're cutting somebody's grass, shoveling the driveway, fixing somebody's computer, whatever the case may be. Doing somebody's laundry, dropping off dry cleaning. Like I said, there's lots of ways to make money. Money's everywhere. You just have to find the opportunity, right? You got to look for where the need is and provide that solution. And that is pretty much the basis behind any type of income making, right? Especially if you like an entrepreneur, you doing your own thing, is you have to be able to identify a problem and be able to provide a solution. And then you can market that and you can make money off of it. Ask for a raise at your job. Unless you work for me, don't ask me for a raise. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, ask for a raise at job, because what does jobs typically give you a raise? Once a year, and a few percent maybe. But like I said, if you've been doing a good job, you've been working hard, the worst thing they can do is say no, right? But it's like you said, it doesn't hurt. You never know until you ask, right? Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And you can also switch jobs. I believe there was a study. I don't have it up in front of me yet, but I apologize. But I think they were saying like the majority of people that tends to make more money are people who tends to switch jobs every couple of years versus someone who stays at one job for 15, 20 years. So think about it. Think about the last job you got, or last person that got hired at your job, and think about where their salary is compared to where you are. Maybe you've been there 10 years. They've been there 2 years, but they came in a lot higher than you did 15 years ago, right? Because you're kind of getting these increment raises every year, but they're coming in right at whatever the current market value is. Take a look at once this whole pandemic thing kind of opened up, and then everybody kind of got out of that lockdown, right? And then next, like people coming back into the workforce ask for crazy amounts of money, and they're getting these companies are paying it too. I mean, it's crazy. But like I said, it's setting new precedents on the workforce now. So think about it now. If you've been at this job that you've been at prior to the whole coffin thing, you are probably well underpaid compared to your people coming in after the fact, right? So take that into consideration. Most of these companies have already adjusted their wages, some of which they have done for employees that they had on the job, and some companies hasn't quite really. But like, look at what they're doing now. Like people working at McDonald's, they're starting at like $15 an hour or something like that, right? And then you got like gas station people, working overnight, probably making $17, $18 an hour. Of course, I'm speaking of my local area, but like I said, wherever you at, I'm pretty sure it's going to have like a similar effect across the globe. But anyway, moving right along, let's jump into the next one here, because I digress. Back to the very last portion. I do apologize, I'm going a little bit long, but this, I promise you, is the last slide. So this is the 50-30-20 budget rule. Now, what I want you to take away from this is more of a template. This is not an exact. So what you need to do is take a look at your personal expenses and budget. And after you have already identified that, this is how you want to break down your money. Now, typically what I do and what I would advise you to do is like these should be 3 separate accounts, right? So what I would do typically is we'll say like if you have 3 accounts, right? You want to make your direct deposit account your needs account. This is where all your money is coming in at, right? And then once your money comes in, then you want to take that 30% of whatever. So say we're going to use easy numbers here. So say as you just made $1,000, right? For your paycheck. Or yeah, we say you made $1,000. Like I say, you take $300 and you're gonna put that into another checking account, right? A rewards checking account, hopefully. Now that $300 is gonna be sitting here for you to spend on your non-essentials, like your Hulu, your Netflix, and your fancy coffee, or those pair of shoes you've been wanting, right? And what you're gonna do is then you take that other $200 out of the $800 left over, and wow, my math is wrong here. You have $700. So out of the $700, you're gonna take $200 of that, and you're gonna throw that into your savings. Again, what I would say is you don't want to put aside savings if you still are carrying large amounts of debt. So like I said, the first thing you want to do is you want to pay down those debts. And shout out to Dave Ramsey. He came up with the debt snowball, right? Like I said, that's pretty much saying, you say if you got 4 credit cards, you pay $25 each credit card, you got $100, right? You pay off one credit card, you take that $25, you roll it into the next one. So you're paying 50 to one and 25 to the other two. The same thing when you pay that one off, then you take that 50, you roll it into your third one. Now you're paying 75 to one and 25 to the other. And that paid off, then you pay $100 all to one credit card, right? That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It can be more diverse than that, but anyway, not to dive too much into that, but like I said, so this is the basic rule. So you may want to adjust this because maybe you don't need to save 20%. What I would say is, like, once you pay off those debts, and I mean like unsecured debts, revolving credit cards, things you don't need at the moment, right? This is when you want to really start using this budget. Uh, once you've got your budget down, you know what your expenses and income is. You've cut back on expenses. You brought in extra income. You want to start diving into that. And typically, when you get your savings up, they say you want to use this for your investments, right? And some people say, you save 6 months of savings, but I think it all depends on what you're going to do, right? But ideally, like I say, is like you don't want to be investing while you still have debt, first of all, because whatever you're going to get on returns from your investment is probably less than what you're paying on interest on your credit card if you get carrying a balance. So that's why it's important to pay those debts down first and then start jumping in and start putting aside money for savings. So savings, you're looking at getting into real estate. A lot of people do that. Most millionaires come from the real estate world, right? So that's something that a lot of people are doing. Maybe not right this moment, but like unless you invest into like rental properties. But like I say, if you want to buy homes, like that 20% savings, that's where you cut back on. Or maybe you don't have as many wants. I'm that type of, I don't have a lot of wants. I pretty much do the same thing every single day. So I'm basically spending like almost nothing on wants. So I would probably put this at like 10% for me. And then I would probably put, the other 20% here. So I'll be doing, 40 in savings, 50 in the needs, and then 10% of my wants, right? Because like I said, but most of my money goes towards my kids anyway. But anyway, see, and like I said, that was the end of the video. So with all that being said, I hope you all enjoy it. I hope I didn't go too fast or too slow. Let's see where we at. 22 minutes. So I'm still a little bit long on the video, but I hope you took notes. And if you got some value out of this, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification, because I'm gonna be dropping videos pretty much every single day, and they're kind of building on each other. So this is pretty much meant to kind of help you and guide you along and giving you steps you can take every single day in order to get to where you need to be for your financial freedom. So with all that being said, I hope you have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week, and thank you again for visiting my channel, and I will see you tomorrow or the next time you're on. Peace.